Okay, I'm back. It has been a week, so the barrel has been tumbling for 7 days in rough grit, and it's time to take a look at what we got. Now, the first time I did this caught me off guard and I wasn't ready for it, so just so if it's your first time as well, you won't be surprised. Okay, when I take the nut off and the washer off, there is no way that I am going to pull this lid off with my hand. It's on there, it's staying on there. So what you do is you take your washer and you kind of jam it in and just pop it and break the seal. And once you break that seal, then it comes off perfectly easily, so you don't have to worry about that. It's not hard to do. And then I had the same thing. I tried to pull this out and I can't. All you have to do is you pull the edge of the barrel, break the seal again, and it pops right out. And that is what it should look like. It's kind of grayish watery gray. That's the slurry we're talking about. Now we're outside because you don't ever want this slurry going down your drain. It will plug up your drain, and that will make for one really bad day, followed by some really expensive repairs. So you really don't want to do that. So you got to do this part outside. I'm lucky enough that I have a gravel driveway I do it in. I don't know. Yeah, you can see it in the video. This is where I do it, and I've got like a gray field here of all the slurry that is laying there. And the thing is, if I weren't doing it out here, this would be in my pipes, which is not good. That wouldn't be good at all. If you don't have a place like what I have here, I do know there are people who will take like a 5-gallon bucket and they'll get a strainer that fits on the top of it. You can buy them through, I know Rockshed has them. I would be surprised if Kingsley North doesn't have them as well. And you can rinse your rocks off into a 5-gallon bucket, and then what people do is they'll put the bucket outside, let the water evaporate off, and then just throw away the hardened grit. That would probably be a better way of doing it than making this big mess in my driveway, but it really doesn't bother me in the driveway. What I'm doing here, I want to make sure I have all the slurry off my lid, because I don't want grit getting between my lid and the barrel and wearing down the rubber and having to replace these things more often than I actually should have to. So that's all I'm doing there. Okay. It's good. Set it off to the side. All right, now we dump the rocks in. You know what? Let's get a better look at it. Get a little closer. If you'll bear with me. There we go. See if I can get it to focus. Trying to make sure I'm out of the shot. And we pour it in. And there are all our rocks. Now my favorite part of all this is, you know, they look like a gray mess right now. Watch what happens when you hit them with the hose. All that color comes out. And you see, it's not hard to rinse them off. Okay. And then I'm going to clean out my barrel. My hose isn't cooperating today. Alright. The other thing I like to do is to clean this edge here, because that's where the lid connects. And like I said, I don't want any slurry there. And it's probably hard to see in the camera, but there is a little bit. You can see there's a little bit there. Okay, and this cleans it right off. Okay. There you go. Alright. We're going to move inside now that the rocks are cleaned off, and I'll continue in there. Okay, we're inside now. I have them in my sink, and I have water up above them. A lot of people say once you start tumbling the rocks, never let them get dry. So I tend to do that. I don't know that I don't think it would be the worst thing ever if I let them dry off. As a matter of fact, you know, Okay, just for fun, this rock looks pretty shiny right now. Okay, so a lot of people are like, oh great, I'm done. Okay, well it's wet. Watch what happens when I dry it off. Okay, I'm going to take a towel, dry it off, and it's not shiny anymore. Okay, but here's the thing, what they look like wet now is what they'll look like when we're done with them. And I don't think I just ruined that rock by getting it dry. Okay, now what we're doing now is we're going to look at these rocks to see which ones are ready to move on to step 2 and which ones need to stay in step 1. Okay, and this is probably the big mistake I made when I first started. I read the directions on the tumblers and I got the impression you do 1 week step 1, 1 week step 2, 1 week step 3, 1 week step 4, and you're done. And you can do that, and you'll probably get some rocks that come out well, but they're not going to come out perfect. The key is step 1 is the shaping stage. It's the most important stage, and if you watch the Facebook groups and all that, it's a stage that everybody always wants to skip, but you can't. Okay, now what I'm doing is I'm looking for problems with any of the rocks that more time in step 1 will help. Now I'd already seen this one. Okay, if you take a look at it, it's got a hole in it. Now the first problem is that hole is deep enough that to be honest with you, it's going to take a long time in step 1 to wear it out. So one thing I could do is I could cut the rock. I don't like to cut rocks. I really don't have the right equipment to do it. And just as another educational thing, don't cut rocks without the right equipment. If you breathe rock dust, that is very, very bad for you. Like, could potentially kill you later in life. I think it's called silicosis. You don't want to breathe rock dust. So if you're going to cut a rock, you need a wet saw of some sort. And I don't have one at this point. So most of the time what I'll do is, if I want a rock smaller, is I'll take a hammer and hit it until I break it. And even that, I do it in a way where I'll wear glasses to cover my eyes. I have the rock covered up, and I'm still nervous about it, because when you hit these rocks and they break, pieces can shoot everywhere. Okay, so I'm going to go back to that one I pulled out before, because to be honest with you, I think this one's ready. I do a lot of this with my hands, not with my eyes. I'm feeling for rough spots on the rock, and I don't feel any. I think this one is ready to go. Now I'm lucky enough, I have 4 barrels. So what I'm going to do is I have 1 barrel here, and that's going to be my ready to go to step 2 barrel. I'm going to keep it off to the side. Down in the sink over here, this is the barrel we just finished with. That's going to be my stays in step 1 barrel. So this one, the one we just looked at, it's going into the stays in step 1 barrel. And we're going to go through and just look at these rocks. Now see, here's the funny, this one, that little dark spot there, that looks like a hole, but when I feel it, there's nothing there. This one has just the tiniest little spots on it that I don't like, but I think 1 more week in step 1, it'll be ready to go. This one's same deal. It's got one. Okay, let me see. Yeah, you can see it's right there. Right there. That's a little spot that a couple more weeks in step 1 will take care of that. Okay. This is one I broke last week. And it's still got some rough spots on it. Now, here's another thing. Some people would look at the rocks I just threw back into another week of step 1 and be like, man, you're out of your mind. They're ready to move on. And that's fine. Okay, let me go back to that first one. It's got a hole in it. The rest of it would shine up. It would work. Okay, but to me, that hole bothers me. Okay, and there's a rough spot right here too. Okay, but if that doesn't bother you, then hey, knock yourself out, move it on. Okay, this one has a big crack in it right in the middle. Okay, now here's the other thing. When you have a hole like I did on that one, I should take the toothbrush and scrub it really good to make sure there's no slurry left in it. This one might be right. No, this one has a crack right here. Okay, I should make sure I should make sure there's no slurry in that hole, because if I move it on to step 2 and there's slurry in that hole, that could cross-contaminate my batch. It means I get step 1 slurry into step 2. That would be the equivalent if you were sanding wood and you have some really rough sandpaper and you get the wood down to where you want, and then you get some really fine sandpaper and you get it really nice and smooth, and then you take the rough sandpaper and go over it again. It's going to mess up what you just did with the fine. So you don't want step 1 slurry or grit to get into your step 2 barrel. Now here's the thing, I put that back in step 1. So if it does have some slurry or grit in that hole, it's not going to bother me a bit. It's going right back into a step 1 barrel. So in that case, it's not a big deal. Okay, here's another one. I think this one's ready. Okay. This one's got a crack on it. My camera seems to be focusing nicely today. I like this one. Oh, this is that rock I thought might have been an agate. Oh wow, it very well might be. Let me see if I get to focus. Now, yeah, I said that now. Now it's not focusing. There we go. I don't think it's quite ready to move on, but I'm excited about that rock. Okay, this one has a hole up at the top. Okay, I normally wouldn't go through every rock, and I may do a couple more. This one I think's ready. It's kind of an interesting looking rock. There we go. Move that one on. Okay, I think I am going to do that. I'm going to stop here and I'll come back when we have the rocks ready to go. Okay, we're done. Now, here's the problem we have. This is the barrel of rocks that I think are ready to move on. And the battery's about to die on my camera. So I'm going to stop right here for just a second, go get a different battery, and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back again. Wouldn't you know it, I went upstairs and grabbed the battery, brought it down here, and it was dead too. So my third time was a charm. This battery should finish this up. So as I was saying, this is what I have that's ready to move on. Okay, I'm going to try to get some... Hold on one second. I can get more light in there. Okay. Once you get a good look at this. And believe it or not, this is actually more than I was even expecting. Like I said in the first video, if I had used regular rough rock, I might not have had any rocks ready to move on to step 2. And that's a fair amount. I got about the bottom of the barrel covered. So obviously I don't have enough rocks there to do step 2. Okay, now I could take a whole bunch of ceramic media and fill the barrel up and do it that way. But if you think about it, then I'm using all that grit for just a little bit of rocks. The idea here is we want to use the grit on rocks, not on ceramic media. Okay, so I'm not going to do that. Now, the rocks that I had that aren't ready to move on, this is it. Now, the other problem we have is now we're only about half full, and we want to be 2/3 to 3/4. So what we do now is we take rocks that we from our batch that we got last week, and we didn't put in. This is why I got more than what I needed. This is why I tried to get 3 barrelfuls, because I have 2 more barrelfuls of rocks ready to move on. And I did what I did before. I kind of tried to pull out the rocks that I think have the best chance of moving on. You know, I look real quick. Let me see. This rock, okay, it's got some really big pits in it. I could tumble this, but it's probably going to take 7-8 weeks to get this thing down to where those pits are gone. And you never know. Sometimes what happens is when you start tumbling, you wear out one hole, but another one comes up because there's an air bubble inside the rock. Okay, so sometimes it just doesn't work. Okay, so I tried to pick out the rocks that have the best chance, and we can use those to fill this one back up. Okay, so we have enough rocks to move on. That was the one that was purple. I don't think I'm going to throw it in. We'll throw this one in there. tumbler. Once again, there's no like, okay, he put one too many rocks in, the whole thing's ruined. Okay, it's not like that. It's not like that. All right, so the next step is we put this barrel back in, we load it up with step 1 grit, and we do step 1 for another week. Okay, and that's life as a rock tumbler. You're going to be doing step 1 over and over and over and over, trying to fill up barrels for step 2. To give you an idea, okay, I have 2 weeks of ready to move on rocks from a 12-pound barrel and 1 3-pound barrel, and this is all I have. That's it, out of basically 2 weeks in a big barrel. Okay, but that's kind of the way it works. You got to wait for them to be ready to move on. All right, so before we get over there and get going on that, there was something I meant to mention last week, and now I'm late on it, so I have homework for you. If you've been watching this, you're trying to learn how to tumble. My homework is you shouldn't be watching just me, okay? My 3 favorite channels other than mine, okay? And I'm not the kind of guy to be like, just because they're not me. Heck no. Okay, you should watch other people. But my 3 favorite, number 1, Michigan Rocks. That's anybody that's been around a while. Rob, the guy from Michigan Rocks, he is like the rock star of rock tumbling, okay? And I'm going to be very specific with him. He actually has a video called Rock Tumbling Tutorial for Rotary Tumblers. It's 3 years old, it's 55 minutes and 16 seconds long. You need to watch it. I would say it's the video on how to tumble rocks in a rotary tumbler. Okay, so I wrote it down. Last week that worked out well. I was able to read, so that's what you're looking for. Rock Tumbling Tutorial for Rotary Tumblers from Michigan Rocks. 55 minutes, 16 second video. It's 3 years old, and it's very good. I didn't see it till well after I had started tumbling, and I sat there for 55 straight minutes, mesmerized by it. Okay, my next favorite, and these are in no particular order because I like them all for different reasons. Rob is like the rock star of rock tumbling, so of course you like him. The next one's a guy called Me Miner. Me Miner is a guy from Canada, and he does more rock hunting videos than rock tumbling videos, but if you go back into some of his older stuff, he does some tumbling videos, and he's just a fun guy to watch. He's got a great sense of humor. You could say he's like the grandpa of rock tumbling, which the funny part is he's probably only about 10 years older than me. But he's a lot of fun to watch. I always enjoy his videos. My last of my 3 favorite is the Dude Rolls Rocks. Now the reason I really like Dude Rolls Rocks is he's a lot like me. Okay, he's a small, Rob at Michigan Rocks, I'm pretty sure if he's not over 100,000 subscribers, he's like at 80. He's got a lot. Me Miner is in the tens of thousands. I'm a little over 1,000. Dude Rolls Rocks is sneaking up on 1,000, I think. And here's the thing, Dude Rolls Rocks, he's the cool guy of rock tumbling. He's absolutely very, very cool. He has a lot of the same equipment I have. He does a lot of the things I do the same way I do them, but he videos it much better. And he's a very easy guy to listen to, very soothing. I really enjoy his videos. He also does one thing I mentioned last week that I don't tend to do a lot, and I'm wrong. He does tend to do species tumbles. You'll see he'll have a barrel with Tiger Eye in it, a barrel. I think the last one he's working on, I think, was Bahia agates. I really like those. That's why I got him. I was watching him working on them. Okay, but he does species tumbles, and I think it can be very beneficial. I get away with mixing different kinds of rocks in a lot of cases, but I will say one of my favorite is Tiger Eye. And I never really had a lot of success with Tiger Eye until I started doing species tumbles with it. And once I started doing that, I really got some good results. Okay, so I'm going to move over and we will set up the barrel. So your homework is check out the Dude Rolls Rocks, Me Miner, and Michigan rocks. Those guys are all excellent. Okay, I'm going to move over and we'll set the barrel up to go. Okay, here we are. Now, first thing, I did this off camera, but I do want to mention it. The water I had in the barrel was pretty warm. So I dumped it out, and I keep a gallon jug of water right next to my little table here. So I have room temperature water. Okay, I don't think it would have hurt anything, but here's my thought. I don't want to put hot water in my barrel and put the lid on it, have it cool off and create a suction inside the barrel. I also don't want to put really cold water in the barrel, put the lid on it, have it warm up and blow my lid off. So I figure I'm tumbling these at room temperature, I fill them up with room temperature, and then it shouldn't be a problem. And the key is, even like if you think about when I put it on the tumbler creates heat, okay? And it may heat up a little bit, but a couple of degrees from room temperature isn't going to make a massive difference. Okay, so just like last week, we're going to take our grit. I didn't really have, I don't think I have enough 60/90 to keep one 60/90. So I'm just going to give it 2 scoops of my straight 60. 1, 2. And then I'm going to have to go get the lid. Okay. And put the lid on just like we did last week. I dry it off. I don't think I need to. I don't think it would make a difference one way or the other. But there you go. Okay, I'll dry off the inside of this. Just like last week, we push the lid down on. Put the washer on. Screw on the top. Give it one more little push. Screw it again. It's good to go. Okay, and it looks, okay, you can see the 12-pound tumbler. Let me back out a little bit. Okay, this is the 3-pound tumbler. It's running already, so because I have another barrel on. I'm going to stop it, put this one on, start it up again, and we're good to go. Alright, so that is where we are now, and this is something to be expected, okay? When you start out, when you get to the end of step 1, especially if you start with rough rock like what I showed last week, I wouldn't have been surprised if today we had no rocks ready to move on to step 2. Now here's the thing, next week about half of these rocks will have spent 2 weeks in step 1 and about half will have spent 1 week. So it wouldn't surprise me to get as many as we got this week, and I'd say by the end of the 3rd week we should absolutely have enough to be able to move on and start with step 2. Once we get to step 2, that is a 1 week and done, then 1 week and done with pre-polish, 1 week and done with polish, and then we should have some final results. Alright, see you in a week.